everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Tonight we have with us a guest we had on about a year ago to talk about his career in Testament, but we have him back on the show tonight to catch us up on some new work he is doing. Welcome back to the show, Steve.
Thank you very much. Good to be back with you.
So, I just want everybody to know it's Steve Giorgio, just in case there was any questions on that. So first of all, let's give fans a quick update on Testament. So, Steve, new album all written. When are you guys expecting to release? I think I read somewhere around the beginning of next year.
Yeah, I think they were shooting for February, but it's possible they pushed it back maybe to early March. Few normal factors regarding that. There's always, the time to get all the physical stuff printed. They want to do a nice merch variety around this release, different vinyls, digipacks, and some other cool little items that'll be available from Nuclear Blast. And they also want to kind of release it in its own little space. They want to have something else major come out at the same time. So, yeah, I think that's about right. Probably early March.
And yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so what can us fans expect from this album, Steve?
Oh, boy. It's always hard for, a musician, but anyone that really has worked on the inside to know what someone will expect. I could safely say it's very Testament. I think anybody who likes Testament or is familiar with the sound and everything it's right there. There's no really experimenting going on. There's no, no new wholesale changes. Like, for example, like how they changed their sound when they went from low to demonic, and then a couple little adjustments along the way since then. I think this is kind of right in the middle lane of Testament's signature sound, which to me is a complete positive, especially when you're in a band that's been doing it for over 30 years and the fan base has been around for that long. It's a safe way to play, but it's also hard to do and avoid repetition, which is, I think, really well done on this batch of songs. I think it has all the little recognizable elements from, some of the current albums, but I think it ties together in a little bit more catchy, melodic way, which is good. Those kind of songs stick in your head throughout the day, and they're easy to rock out to. But, if we get into really slicing it down to the, sub layers, it's definitely got brutal parts going on. It's got good speed parts. Got, Alex and Eric doing a lot of harmony, splitting it up, making it melodic. Chuck sings different styles. He's got his big, heavy, low voice. He's got his signature Chuck Billy, melodic sound. He's actually harmonized himself on a couple places. That's not entirely usual for Testament. So there's a lot of cool ingredients that tie together to make it what it is. But overall, that's what I first said. I think it's just a killer New Testament record that has hopefully enough of everything for everybody. So we'll see.
And to follow the release, you guys are doing a tour, the Bay Strikes Back tour over in Europe. Who is that going to be with?
Yeah, that's correct. The tour's actually been booked for a while. Some of the shows are already selling out.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's with our buddies from the area. We got Exodus and Death Angel going together. So it's a nice kind of package deal. It's like kind of the old school Bay Area thrash bands getting together. And I know that a lot of the European fans love that kind of stuff. They just had a big Swedish tour come through here. It was a Monomar, the Arch Enemy. I don't remember all the bands, but it's that kind of deal, where you get bands that come out of the same area. But in our case, these bands all came out around the same time, and the big part of the the signature Bay Area thrash sound. So it should be a good deal. We have other stuff lined up. We just announced we're going to Australia for a couple shows, played on some big festivals there. And I've heard talk of U.S. tour. That's, of course, unofficial, not to be announced, but it's pretty inevitable with a new release that you're going to try to hit all the territories. And so we'll be swinging through the U.S. at some point next year. We have a different European tour later in the year that involves most of the East. Like we'll be in Russia for a while, Ukraine, Poland, stuff out there in the East side of everything. So busy, really good to be going strong and at this age, it's a really welcome thing to have.
Well, you got a lot going on. Like last we talked, you were recording the new Gone in April album, which of course I had a chance to listen to and actually played some of those tracks on air. So what were your thoughts on the album after it was all done, Steve?
Yeah, it came out pretty good. That's right. We talked when we were in the studio, so that's just about a year ago. Yep. Man, time flies. Time flies. But it was cool. That was my second album working with that group in general. Although the drummer Yannick that I showed you about, we've worked together on several things, and we go back quite a few years. So there's a good familiarity. Blah, blah, blah. I'm actually trying to get my dog to stop biting this bee, and I'm becoming a little bit distracted. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's a fun time out there. It's real fun. It's sometimes composing or learning music gets a little bit stressful or kind of stale maybe, or just sometimes you're just absorbed in what you're supposed to play with, whereas when I work out there in Tennessee with these guys, it's really up in the air, and it's very supportive. It's a very musical environment, so it's cool. It's fun. We get to throw out ideas and see how they work, throw them away or keep them and build from there. So my impression of the album is, good vibe and good working environment. They pretty much, they finish it up on their own. I don't live near them or anything, so I got a copy of it and checked it out. It came out pretty good. We went back in January, so shortly after my recording was done, and we went to 3 different locations to film videos for the songs. 2 of them have been out on YouTube already. They're just about ready, I think, to put out the 3rd one. And they were really, really cool sites. Like Yannick just has this big, grand vision in his mind of what to do. And so we were going to places like in Georgia. We went to an old kind of Civil War era mill. It's on the edge of this river. It's a place where they used to manufacture, like ammunition or something for the war, and it's just fenced off now. It's just like kind of this old brick walls that you just kind of see from the trail. But Yannick got permission to go inside there, and we set up and recorded right there on location. And so it gives us a good backdrop to work. And he also found an old abandoned, I guess, church or cathedral. I don't know what the difference is in definition, but it's a huge church. And it's just pretty much the same thing. It's like fenced up from the street, kind of boarded up. But inside, even though it's kind of, dilapidated a little bit, you could tell, the old beauty that was there at the beginning of the 1900s. And so, and of course, in January in Detroit, it's like, like freaking 15 degrees out. So we're trying to, play along to this music. We got jackets on and our fingers aren't moving. Everybody's frozen. But in the end, the producer, the video producer we use from Norway, Thomas, is really good, man. And he gets really into the filming. Like the camera operating is very physical, and he's in there and he's getting all these shots and everything, the right angle and the right light. And I think the videos really come out good. It's a good promotional tool to put out there. YouTube is kind of like the modern day MTV, where people go there and they get to check out new music and see what stuff's like. And so it's pretty important for bands to still support music videos to their stuff. But now it's not like you're making videos when you make it. Now it's like you're making videos to get noticed.
Right.
So along with the batch of the videos we did for the previous Gone in April album, there's a lot of really cool visuals to go along with this music. So, I kind of sit back and see how it's received. It's a very distinct kind of flavor of music. Very technical riffing, but the singing has like two vocalists. One's operatic and one's kind of death metal. So it's it's kind of meant for a specific audience. So it's good. But the band just came through on tour. They're playing with I don't know if I can pronounce either of these bands' names correctly, but the one from Finland is like Korpiklani or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that one. And then the other one is, this one always kills me. Gene Hogan always busts my ass for saying it wrong, but I think it's Eluvite, something like that. It's, I believe they're from Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And the music is kind of similar to the Finnish band. They got that kind of, that folk, the hard folk, but it's, you got modern distorted guitar and modern beats, but then you have like, violin and different kind of older folk instruments that blend in with it. But really it just turns out to be kind of like a foot stomping, beer drinking music, it's very catchy. And so Gone in April got on tour with those bands, and I think they fit in really well. So, the band doesn't really become kind of an established thing until they get out there and get face to face with who likes them. So I think the band will do a little better now. So pretty long way to answer how the album came out, but I guess it all ties in one way or another.
Well, that'll be a fun tour, because that's what Korpiklani sings about too. Beer drinking, vodka drinking.
Well, they're from Finland. I mean, what else you could do?
What else are they going to do? So let's talk a little bit about GEODA. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's how I pronounce it.
Oh, then that's how I pronounce it too. Now, I think we touched on it a little bit last time, but just tell people a little bit about it. I mean, it's a technical melodic death metal-y band that you're in alongside of Dirk Verburen of Megadeth and the Argentinian artist Facundo Lopez. I'm probably said that wrong. So what attracted you about this band, and how did you get the gig playing bass for them?
Well, actually, Facundo had found Dirk first, had him lined up to track all the drums and play on his album, and somewhere in conversation between them two, I came up. So I guess I just got brought into the gig from Dirk's recommendation, and then I got to know Facundo. We didn't, none of the three of us did it, in the same place. We did it all from our own locations, but you know how it is these days. You can, chat online and everything. You get to know someone pretty good. It's not strange anymore. So I got to know him pretty good, and we worked on the music that way. I would record stuff and send it to him, and he would give me the thumbs up or little areas to fix or change or whatever. And we went on like that till it was done. And, we tried to, me and Dirk tried to kind of help this project get exposure from, our, whatever you call it, status or our level of recognition in the metal world. And it's really hard, man, for any new startup band, whether they have, known musicians in the lineup or if they're all completely new guys or whatever. It's just really hard for people to latch on and kind of let the band see the support. There's probably a lot of people that are clicking play and listening to it and stuff, but that stuff doesn't really get back to the artist immediately. Facundo put the album up on, which one was it? Was it like CD, what's it called? Or what is that?
Bandcamp?
Bandcamp, yeah, something like that. It's where he put the album up there where you can just listen to it there, or you can take a download. And he went the route where you can just have it for free. he was just willing to, kind of pay the dues to get noticed. And of course, there's always options of people to purchase it for whatever price they want.
Right.
And so he was going over with me one day the results of that, seeing how many clicks and how many purchases and how many donations and stuff. And he was a little bit let down because he thought having me and Dirk on there, he would just explode into like Metallica level fame, or something. But, I reminded him, it's hard. I watched back in late night. Well, I guess right when 2000 started, I watched Eric Peterson get Dragonlord off the ground, his side project. And there was some of that kind of expectation there too. Like, if even half the fan base of Testament was interested in Dragonlord, that's a great start. It's a huge start, but it doesn't ever work out like that. It's like, even though that's freaking Eric Peterson from Testament, it doesn't guarantee anything, and the band could be good and possibly take off. That the potential is always there, but it's the lineup or the notoriety in the lineup doesn't always equate, exposure. And so Facundo's, he's got a great record. Really, I'm really behind the material. It was super challenged to play, which translates into something, adventurous to listen to. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. He's a crafty writer, so even though there's a lot of tricky stuff that musicians, and nerdy kind of people that know the riff, they know the all the inner workings, those fans will definitely be there. But he also puts the songs in a formula or a structure to where it's pretty listenable. There's catchy stuff. He splits his vocal style two ways. He's brutal and he's melodic. And I think overall it's a good listen. And it's a kind of album, a lot of thought went into it. He likes for people to listen, from the beginning and go through the album sequence 1 through 10 or 11, whatever it is, because the flow of the music and the way the lyrics go kind of takes you somewhere. And it's a real interesting listen, and I would love to be able to promote it more and turn people onto it, because I think they would get through the listen and check it out again and again, and they would turn to me and say, yeah, cool, thanks. I think it's got a little bit of a lot of things familiar that you can point to, but really the culmination is a new thing. And I think that's really what it's up to in metal now that it's been around for, like 20, 30 years. Nothing brand new is going to come out and smack you in the face anymore. So now it's really just about taking familiar sounds and familiar approaches to music and rearranging it and making it slightly different and in your own way that's interesting to people. And I think that's what GEODA is doing. You could point to the obvious things. Like I even told them when I first heard some of the early demos, I said, man, I really hear, I know a few people have pointed to Opeth in his sound, but I took it even further and I said, it reminds me of a band I work with called Wintersorg. And then, he's influenced also by Chuck's riffs from Death, and I'm trying to think of some of the other influences, but I mean, between Opeth, Wintersorg, Death, that kind of stuff, and having Dirk, he's a little speed demon back there, just he pushes the music a little bit more, gets that intensity going, and and the fretless bass is playing this kooky stuff, underneath and between these crazy guitar riffs. The thing about his riffing style is he's extremely proficient and extremely tight and articulate with his picking hand. He has amazing command of this rhythm style. It's very rhythmatic, and that is a word now. Thank you. So yeah, that's GEODA in my summation. It's pretty cool music, man. It was kind of difficult working on it, and I mean most of that from the technical and like the physical side of it. I had to kind of up my game. I had to kind of get a little better to play this stuff. So it wasn't like all just party time, happy, woo. It was intense. I had to focus, and I had to really get on it. And so when I listen back now, I can just relax. That intensity's not there. I can just listen with open ears, and every time I listen, I'm like, wow, it's really good. I didn't know that when I was working on it because I was so focused, but now the focus is off and I can just push play, and it's pretty good. And if anybody on your show, gives a crap, please just check it out. You'll see it's good metal.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on talking about these other bands, because everybody knows about Testament, it's all over the place, but they might not know so much about these other bands. And this GEODA is good because I've listened to it, I play it on the show, and I just, it's nice to have somebody to kind of talk about it a little more and what you go through as a musician while you were putting this album together along with Facundo and with Dirk, and it's a shame to me that I'm like, oh, if everybody could hear it, they would all love it, if they love that kind of style of music, most metalheads. So I definitely wanted to get that out there.
Really cool. That's really cool you said it that way. I mean, that's awesome. We appreciate the support, and that I didn't know you were playing it so much. That's awesome.
Yes, I play them all. If I usually ask to talk about it in an interview, I'm already playing it. And I think we touched on it the last interview, because I think we were talking about geodes and smashing them open and finding crystals inside of them or something like that. I don't know. And
yeah, that sounds familiar.
And I think that's when it was. I think he had a couple of links up there on Bandcamp for free to download it for free. That's how I knew it was Bandcamp. I actually went and checked back on it recently too, and it was Bandcamp. So yes, so we'll definitely be playing some more on that too. And now this is strictly a studio thing, isn't it? Or I mean, I can't imagine you guys are playing all over the place, but with other bands.
GEODA, I mean, just like with any musical project, you always leave the door wide open for whatever may happen. So it's not fair to say yes or no either way. I know the reality of it with Dirk's schedule and my schedule and the the distance we all are from each other. It was never really assumed or leaned on too much that we were going to get together and play live, but recently in a chat between Facundo and myself, we were talking about the possibility, like, hey, what if it could happen? And we said, hell yeah. So, I mean, who knows? A lot of this stuff is dependent on the fans. What do they want? If they want to see it, then everything gets put into motion. Then there's promoters that are pulling themselves together to, the logistics side of it, and then the band gets together and prepares, and all that stuff kind of falls in line. So it's really up to, if people, want to see it and they care about it that much. And along those lines, also with the whole Bandcamp thing, I know one thing me and Facundo were talking about, and I know for sure that he really likes the feedback, because he's in a very remote part of the world. He's down in western Argentina towards the mountains, and bands don't come through there all the time. There's not like a music scene, and so basically everything he gets to see about his band and the metal scene is all done on the internet. And so when fans are leaving comments about like they're on the Bandcamp or whatever, where about what they think of the album, and or if they write him directly or post on his Facebook or whatever, I know that means it means a hell of a lot to him, and he shares a lot of the opinions and feedback from people with us, to show what people are saying and stuff. So yeah, same thing. Anybody listening, if they just have a few seconds to just click in there and just give them, a little quick review or a little description or something, man, it goes a long way, to boost someone that put so much into a project, put his whole heart and soul and a lot of his life into this, so it goes a long way just to say just a little something like, I dug your music, this and that, and that kind of stuff, it means a lot.
And we'll definitely post the link up for that, so everybody will be easy for them to find. They won't even have to search it. I'll supply everything for them.
Cool, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, some people need that hint.
They're both like, what did she say? I can't remember now. And who was it? Nah, because I'm probably one of those people as well. So I'll just make it easier for everybody and post all that up there. And now, Steve, let's talk about your new band. Okay, all this is going to be a mouthful for me. Quadvium, right? Bass players unite in celebration of this band, Steve, featuring yourself as well as fellow fretless bass player, oh boy, Jeroen Paul Thesseling, right? Did I say that right?
You know...
You don't know how to say it either?
Well, he had told me a long time ago it's like Jeroen.
Okay.
A friend of mine that lives in Netherlands says it's a kind of version of the name Euronymous.
Oh,
so
boy.
I keep that in mind when I want to say Jeroen. But it's funny because there's another bass player friend of ours who's playing currently in 6 Feet Under named Jeff Huell, and he knows Jeroen pretty well from Warwick bass camps and functions like this because they're both playing the Warwick bass. And he made a suggestion to him that we should go around and make a compilation video of how many people mispronounce his name. So it is a thing.
Okay, good. I'm glad.
He has a very unusual name. And outside of that country, I think pretty much everyone mispronounces it. So it's pretty normal. But because he does have one of those dual first names, like Marc Andre or, these kind of double names. So since because he is Jeroen Paul, we just call him JP. So.
There you go. That's one way of getting out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and also, another Dutch guy in there, oh boy, Yuma Van Eekelen, is that how you pronounce his last name?
Probably.
Or do you just call him, YV?
Right? Except for that other part is part of his last name.
YVE. So, okay.
And then with my last name having the little separation from the Italian style, I mean, we got a big pile of a bunch of crazy names in this band.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a mouthful. So all these Dutch artists and yourself, so what inspired you to want to start this band with these artists, and what kind of music are you all going to be making together, Steve?
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. I'll just sit here and have a drink, and you go ahead and tell us all about it.
I know, you know my style. It's like, come back from the store and I'm still going on and on. No, well, me and JP have known each other for quite a few years. Mm-hmm. And, you cross musicians every now and then, like, hey, we should hook up, do a project. But, that kind of thing, it's almost like people walking around Hollywood saying, hey, let's do lunch, It gets to the point where it's almost something to say and not something to do. So when it was at least 10 years ago, we were talking about maybe, hey, let's do a project together. So, but I've been a guest. I've been asked to participate, so to say, on bass player projects. Like Jeff Huell, who I just brought up, did a bass player only record with Alberto Rigoni from Italy. And I just came in and dropped a little solo on one of the pieces, but I was there for a while talking to him about it. And it was a big challenge to have multiple bass players. Mm-hmm. I think that project is absent of guitar for the most part. So it's just really like the 2 or 3 basses playing together, making the project. I've been on other bass player solo albums like what's his freaking name? Rob Vanderloo. He's currently the bassist in Epica. Mm-hmm. He was playing in a more progressive style metal band in the Netherlands years ago, and he did like a solo album of kind of a multi-style solo album. And same thing, I was a guest on that. And so, in other words, the idea's been around. People have done multiple bass player projects in some way or another. There's these two young guys from, I think, Australia that have a project going. If it's called Omnific, maybe? You're going to have to give me a little slack on some of these names. I don't have everything totally memorized, but anybody who knows what I'm trying to talk about will know that and this project of the two young guys is just basically just two basses playing with the drum beat, and it's really, really cool. And so there's a lot of examples to point to where this has been done. So for me and JP to say, let's do something, okay, not super new, pretty unusual, yes, but not totally new. But it's also creating something like this. I mean, just straight out having two bass players in any band is a big challenge to do well. You know, it has the potential to just really just be a sonic disaster. So, you know, you want to think like, okay, well, if we're going to use two bass players, first of all, what's the reason? And then what are we going to do to make it work? And that is obviously not really easy to come to, especially when we're both kind of, at the time we talked about it, he was playing bass in Obscura. I think he left and went with he returned to Pestilence for a while. He also plays with, I guess you would call it kind of like world music groups. It's kind of leaning towards like a flamenco sound. Yep. So he's a real, you know, he's playing in a big variety of stuff, this guy. And then I'm just what I do in the extreme world. And so all these elements were kind of keeping us from, you know, arriving to this solution right away. So the idea was always there, toyed with it, you know, brought it up now and then. And finally, this year, especially on his side, on Jeroen's side, he became very, very inspired and decided it was time. And he has a little bit more vision than either of us have had in the past. So we just started the conversation vigorously. Every day we're talking about this and that and discussing how we can make this work and why we want to put not only two bass instruments together, but they're, for the most part, going to be both fretless bass instruments, which also has potential for a huge disaster. But he has a lot of good startup points. I'm really inspired by his enthusiasm lately, and you know, once he got me going, then I just exploded with ideas. And so between the two of us, it's like, okay, that's why we decided to come out with the announcement, because there's been so much conversation and prep for this thing to get started that we're ready now, that it's a real thing. You know, and obviously besides establishing what we're going to do musically to be completely different than, you know, what's already out there, is the basic task of filling a lineup. Jeroen has a very specific requirement to make this a band. You know, I wasn't really opposed to using, you know, maybe just session musicians, just hiring somebody to play stuff, or maybe having a bunch of guys rotating kind of on a guest kind of situation. But he wasn't into that at all. He wanted to have whoever is playing along with us be just as into it as us. So I kind of said, okay, good luck with that. Who the hell wants to join a band with two bass players, you know? Well, it's funny because as it turns out, there's a lot of people, and we went through a long phase of exchanging links, you know, like, oh, check out this guy's YouTube playthrough and check out this guy's album. And, you know, and so once we were interested in certain players, we would contact them and say, we have this idea. What do you think? And wow, cool. You know, and so it's been really cool. The drummer was really easy to find because not only were the recommendation of Yuma came from Jeroen because he had played in a group with him. I think they played in Pestilence for a little while. So he totally knew him personally, obviously. And we were going through this kind of, you know, trial phase of which drummer we like, it was so easy to just pick that guy. His videos are killer. his resume, even though he's not some super well-known guy. I mean, he's been out there. He's pretty active, and you know, there is stuff to see. He plays in Dutch kind of progressive groups like Exvius and some Ocean's fucking name I keep forgetting. But it's actually, I can't remember the title of the band because the music's really great. And as soon as we were both like, you know, I dig this dude, what do you think? And then I'm like, I totally dig this dude, what does he think? And as soon as we got a hold of him, he was just like, yes, would love to do a project like this. Totally unusual, totally unexplored. I'm totally into it. And so we start the group chats, you know, bouncing ideas among 3 people instead of 2. So everything's just exploding even more. And this is the point we're at now with making the announcements, why we included his photo and his credentials in the announcement. We have a 4th guy, or actually we have the spot for the 4th guy getting narrowed down. We're kind of at that point where we have a bunch of guys that we all threw in. What do you think of him? What do you think of him? And then the contacts started, you know, hey, we all like your style. You want to play in our little group, you know? And then the answers come back, and we're kind of at that phase. So nothing really more to say about, you know, finishing the lineup, except for we're pretty close. You know, we have it down to a few guys, and these few guys are pretty interested, but like I said, Jeroen is very committed to making this a band member situation. So we want to make sure that this person's willing to jump in both feet and go the distance with us.
So is this going to be an instrumental band project, or do you plan on having a vocalist as well?
Well, that idea went back and forth for a while. Deciding on what vocal style was really hard because we don't have a lot of musical sketches yet. We don't have like this variety of what we actually sound like yet. So it's really hard to decide what would sound good vocally on top of it. So because of that, we don't really know who to ask to join in with us. But we've also, it seemed like even though we talked about maybe doing vocals in this group, it seemed like the whole time it was just prodding the idea to make sure that we're probably not going to have a singer. I'm pretty sure it's going to be all instrumental. But, you know, that's why I kind of pointed out at this point in developing this band, we're not totally concrete yet. So if it turns out in the future we have a singer, well, then I guess we found somebody that worked. But at this point, you know, we're just kind of focusing on getting the sound filled in with the proper lineup, and you know, once we have a better idea of how we are sonically, then we'll know about vocals or not. But I kind of have a feeling it'll be instrumental, since it's kind of a bizarre kind of niche kind of project. I don't see any harm in not. I know some people are kind of turned off by instrumental music. Maybe they don't think it's as fun or interesting or whatever. So we obviously have opened the, you know, we've jumped into the world with this really, you know, bizarre project. So I don't think not having a singer will really make it any more bizarre. So kind of where we're at right now.
So what kind of music are you thinking about writing and playing, or do you not even know?
Yeah, no, we have some, you know, really embryonic ideas of it. So I guess the best way to explain it in you know, normal terms is it's fusion based, and by fusion I mean it's a mix of stuff. So you know, there's a metal attitude in there, where the 3 musicians we have so far have all come from metal backgrounds. So it's gonna be, you know, slightly aggressive and you know, heavy in a way. It'll have the metal element that we're all from, but it'll also be tied in with a very progressive lean, and Jeroen really likes to use the term world music, which to me is a pretty big umbrella. But he has a tendency to lean in the real flamenco, kind of maybe Moorish. If anybody knows what the Moorish sound is, kind of a precursor to the flamenco, slightly Arabic kind of stuff. So it'll have, some really trippy kind of atmospheric and maybe ethnic-y vibe. But I mean, we're all white dudes. Those guys come from the north of Europe, and I'm out here in California. So it'll have that white boy angst as well. That's what I mean by it'll be metal, probably metal centrific with an overtone of Oriental of some kind. I don't know.
Wow, he's starting to get a little fancy there, Steve.
I know. Let's just say it'll be fucking weird, okay? I hope it's just so fucking weird that that's all we're actually known for. That's the only edge we could get.
Well, it sounds intriguing. I mean, two fretless bass players, like you were saying, together, didn't shock me that, you already had two bass players and a drummer, because you're all the rhythm dudes, you're all set there together, you're all jived together. It's adding those other elements. And I think people are gonna be intrigued, at least they will now after hearing it on here. They're gonna be like, can't imagine what this gonna sound like. It's gonna be whatever those words you were saying.
Yeah, I just made them all up, by the way.
I'm gonna have to go back to write them down. It'll be rhythmically fundamentally rhythmatic. There we go. There's my word again. But JP is like really, really good with melody on the bass. This dude's playing a 7-string, so his range is from the lowest piano note, heading way up there. So there'll be a lot of melody on a bass. There'll be melodic exchanges between us, and there'll definitely be a big stinky pile of rhythm too. So that's the phase we are at now. But more specifically, it's hard to tell. It's really early. I was not opposed, like as in an argument, but I was a little more skeptical on when we should kind of announce it and everything. I'm more on the side of getting it farther along, rounding out the lineup, getting some music, getting something more solid to talk about, obviously. But JP was really into announcing it and getting it going. He wants to elongate and spread out the hype and kind of, I guess, just open the windows and let people along while we're developing it. So whatever, it's not that big of a deal. So we're just alerting people that we got this idea going, and we hope it's a trippy adventure. I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be a big challenge to make it work. It's going to be something way more creative than I'm used to doing, being hired to play people's metal riffs. So it's very different. But, the demand of time is based on our individual schedules. So I'm sure when we talk again in another 11, 12 months, hopefully we'll have the album, an EP or something.
Something, right? So we'll see how it goes.
Well,
but
it's kind of fun, though. I think I could see why JP was thinking about releasing the announcement a little early, because now we could follow along with you on your journey, Steve, through this band, and it's kind of cool. So we're looking forward to next year when we talk and hear the new music from you guys.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate the interest and the exposure. It's always cool. It's a vital part to being a musician, having the support, and you are definitely most appreciated for your effort.
Well, I try. Now, you also did Spirits of Fire and Archmatheos this year, along with touring and writing. So, Jesus, Steve, what keeps you so driven to do all this?
God, I mean, It's funny because I've been of this mindset for 30 years, so I don't know. I have to. I have to keep going. I like to always have that kind of pending, like, current project on the list. It's a part of, I guess, what motivates me. Not being any kind of main composer for something, like with Testament, Peterson's writing the majority of the stuff. People pitch in. Obviously, Skolnick has his part, but just for the sake of this conversation, Testament's formula is the way it is, and you play the Testament stuff, and which is fine. It works. I enjoy it, but I'm not composing there. And when something like GEODA is completely composed when it's sent to me, there's wiggle room in what I'm playing in the composition.
Right.
So, I'm not completely just painting by numbers all the time, but from starting with nothing and saying I'm going to write a brand new song, I haven't had that really since the Sadist days. So, I'm trying to reset, but anyway, playing other people's music is great. There's nothing wrong with it at all. I don't feel, little by it. It's a way to open many doors. I meet so many great musicians, make great friendships along the way, learn new styles, new techniques, what people want in different ways. It's a thing I really, really need. But there's a little part of me that doesn't get to compose. And so I guess just playing, in all these projects is great, keeps me going, keeps me interested in music. But every now and then I need to write what's on my mind. I had a little jazz fusion project back in the 90s that I was kind of like how do you say it without being an asshole about? This is the main visionary, I guess, about, It was kind of like my band or whatever you want it. And that was really cool. It was very obscure, very, unknown type of group, but the little clubs we played at and stuff, the small audiences we had, it was such a rush because that was like my baby,
right.
And so we reached the point with this project with the bass players where we're going to have to really, dig in and write. So that rounds it all out, I guess. But just to have, many, many projects going at the same time is what keeps me interested in playing, because of all the benefits of it, of meeting all the people and everything. I don't know. I guess being a bass player and being hired on, it's a lot of time can go by in between jobs or, touring and stuff. So I just like to fill that time with opportunities to stretch out and play other kind of music. It's really weird.
Yeah, well, I think you've done that pretty well.
I can't explain it.
You've been filling your time pretty well, I think, Steve. Have you ever sit back and look throughout the year of all the shit you did?
No.
Like, holy crap, that's a lot of stuff. So what do you got going on for the rest of the year, Steve?
Well, one of the projects that doesn't get brought up very much because of the state that it's in right now, it's the entire project is pretty much finished. Like, in other words, we recorded all the music quite a while ago. I believe all the artwork is kind of coming together, and the whole package for this album to be is just nearing completion. I think the biggest, delay is the right word. The biggest weight is getting the help of a record company to be behind it. The guys in the group are really, really into the idea of having a record company help, push the release,
sure.
even if it's just a catalog item or whatever. Like in the case of GEODA, that's completely Facundo, basically, with me and Dirk's assistance. But the group I'm talking about is mostly based in Norway. I've done other projects with the guys in other guises, other groups. The drummer I've played in Wintersorg with, and then the drummer and the singer, we did an album with a band called Scariot, which is pretty well known in Norway and around there. Yeah, you probably heard of them.
Yes,
They're pretty
I have. Yep.
well researched and knowledgeable. But and the two guys that I'm talking about also played in this fucking cult, like it's one of those bands that puts out one record, like Cynic did for a long time before they got back together. You know, the band's called Spiral Architect. And so these are the guys I've been working with. The guitar player played with them in a band called Manitou, which is kind of from back in the 90s, you know, back in the Spiral Architect days. So they all know each other. We know each other. We have linked together in different bands and hooked up. So we finally got together and made a project of our own. The band is going to be called Terra Odium. It's a Latin phrase. I guess it means kind of like terra meaning earth, odium meaning hate. Basically how the earth hates humans, and it's coughing up volcanoes and storms trying to wipe us out.
Cool.
And it's not based on how we hate earth. It's the other way around. But that's kind of typical to a progressive oriented band. They, you know, there's a lot of good deep meaning in their stuff. But anyway, that's the description of the name. It's called Terra Odium. It's with those guys, the Norwegian shredders from those bands that I brought up. It ranks up there. Like when you said, do I sit back and look at all this stuff I did? To me, when I look at this project, it ranks up there in the top handful of stuff I've ever done. Oh, cool. In my opinion. Like that's my vibe from it. You know, it's like I can listen to this stuff like just a total goosebumped fan. Like I put it on like, oh, he's my favorite singer. Oh, watch his drum roll. This is like, it's so exciting for me. And then I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, I played on it. So it's really cool. And I absolutely cannot wait for this album to be available for people to start getting into and start the whole process, you know. Like I said, the biggest weight is the completion of everything and getting a record company behind it. I think there's stuff brewing, but a couple of the guys in Norway are pretty much handling it. So I get updated when I check in. I wish I knew some more specifics, maybe some dates or something, but you could alert people to just kind of tune into that and be ready to check it out. You know, it's going to be a good one.
What's the name of the band again?
Terra Odium.
Okay. So I'll have to, they got a Facebook page?
I don't think we do yet. Or maybe we do. I don't.
All right,
I know
we'll find out.
We have a private Facebook page we use to message each other, so I don't know.
Well, we'll look on your page then for more information when things are released, because I'm sure you'll keep us posted.
Oh yeah, that will be shouted from the highest mountaintops. That's going to be a good one. I'm excited about it.
Yes, we are too now. It sounds awesome. And, well, I think we just about covered everything at this point. We could always catch up with you in the future. And Steve, as always, we love having you on the show. And thank you so much for introducing us to Quadvium and this Norwegian thing you got going on. And Dutch people
and Dutch and I know.
Jeez, you're so international. So we look forward to hearing all this cool stuff, and we'll be, checking out your Facebook pages and websites to see the releases of all this. And good luck with everything you have going on, and have a great rest of the year.
Oh, thank you. You set it up very nice, and you provide an excellent platform for all this promotion for all that stuff. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again.